Is it good?
Yes, Mathaji. Yeah.
All right, so let us begin. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tadho jayam mudirayet. Shrinvatam swakatha krishna punyashravana kirtana hridyantasto hyabhadrani vidhunoti suhritsatam nastyapráyeshvabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Om atmanatimirandhasya nananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yakripatvam vandhe shri gurum deenataranam. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Okay, so today we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, verse 16. Savai Mahabhagavada Parikshit Yena Pavargakhyam Abhadra Buddhihi Nanena Vaiyasaki Sabditena Bheje Khagendra Dvajapadamulam. Savai Mahabhagavada Parikshit Yena Pavargakhyam Abhadra Buddhihi Nanena Vaiyasaki Sabditena Bheje Khagendra Dvajapadamulam. Savai Mahabhagavada Parikshit Yena Pavargakhyam Abhadra Buddhihi Nanena Vaiyasaki Shabditena Bheje Khagendra Dvajapadamulam. Sa, he, well, certainly, Mahabhagavata, first class devotee, Parikshit, the king, Yena, by which, Apavarga Akhyam, by the name of liberation, Adabra, fixed, Buddhi, intelligence, Nanena, by knowledge, Vaiyasaki, the son of Vyasa, Shabditena, vibrated by, Bheje, taken to, Khaga Indra, Garuda, the king of the birds, Dvaja, flag, Padamulam, soles of the feet. O Suta Goswami, please describe those topics of the Lord by which Maharaja Parikshit, whose intelligence was fixed on liberation, attained the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of Garuda, the king of birds. Those topics were vibrated by the son of Vyasa, Srila Shukadeva. O Suta Goswami, please describe those topics of the Lord by which Maharaja Parikshit, whose intelligence was fixed on liberation, attained the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of Garuda, the king of birds. Those topics were vibrated by the son of Vyasa, Srila Shukadeva. There is Srila Prabhupada's purport, all glories to his divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. There is some controversy among the students on the path of liberation. Such transcendental students are known as impersonalists and devotees of the Lord. The devotee of the Lord worships the transcendental form of the Lord whereas the impersonalist meditates upon the glaring effulgence or the bodily rays of the Lord, known as Brahmajyoti. Here, in this verse, it is said that Maharaja Parikshit attained the lotus feet of the Lord by instructions in knowledge delivered by the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami was also an impersonalist in the beginning, as he himself has admitted in Bhagavatam, but later on, he was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord and thus became a devotee. Such devotees with perfect knowledge are called Mahabhagavatas, or first-class devotees. There are three classes of devotees, namely Prakrita, Madhyama, and Mahabhagavata. The Prakrita or third-class devotees are temple worshippers without specific knowledge of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. The Madhyama or the second-class devotees knows well the Lord, the Lord's devotees, the neophytes, and the non-devotees also. But the Mahabhagavata or the first-class devotee sees everything in relation with the Lord and the Lord present in everyone's relation. The Mahabhagavata, therefore, does not make any distinction, particularly between a devotee and non-devotee. Maharaja Parikshit was such a Mahabhagavata devotee because he was initiated by a Mahabhagavata devotee, Shukadeva Goswami. He was equally kind even to the personality of Kali, and what to speak of others. So there are many instances in the transcendental histories of the world of an impersonalist who has later become a devotee, but a devotee has never become an impersonalist. This very fact proves that on the transcendental steps, the step occupied by a devotee is higher than the step occupied by an impersonalist. It's also stated in Bhagavad Gita 12.5 that persons stuck on the impersonal step undergo more suffering than achievement of reality. Therefore, knowledge, that is the kleshodigatarastesham avyaktasakta chetasam. So those who are stuck on that path, they undergo more suffering. Therefore, knowledge imparted by Shukadeva Goswami unto Maharaja Parikshit helped him attain the service of the Lord. And this stage of perfection is called apavarga, or the perfect stage of liberation. Simple knowledge of liberation is material knowledge. Actual freedom from material bondage is called liberation. But attainment of the transcendental service of the Lord is called the perfect stage of liberation. Again, the word used is apavarga, but apavarga can be used in the context of various things. Such a stage is attained by knowledge and renunciation, as we have already explained, and perfect knowledge, as delivered by Srila Shukadeva Goswami, results in the attainment of the transcendental service of the Lord. Om Atnanatimirandasya Atnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you all for being here. So today there is a possibility I may go a little over the time because this was a topic as I was reading about this. There is some practical things came, Krishna showed, because Lingaraj Prabhu was asking this question about participation in the Bhagavatam class and how to make it more attractive and different topics relating to that, some discussions on that. And so I think it's very relevant for us to be very thoughtful because devotees are in general very thoughtful. And that is a good quality which will help everyone to progress in their spiritual practice. So today, what I wanted to talk about was this meaning of this word apavargya vakyam. What is said here? Yena apavargakyam. Apavargakyam, the word used. What is apavargakyam? And the meaning of the word, I will first list the points which I wanted to cover today so that you will get a overall picture in the beginning itself. So apavargakyam means, the word means liberation. But what kind of liberation did Maharaja Parikshit attain? Then it is also stated here, Jnanena Vayasagi Shabditena. Jnanena, by knowledge. By knowledge. How did he get the knowledge? He got the knowledge from attentively hearing from Sukadeva Goswami. So what kind of knowledge was that? What kind of knowledge? This is something we need to think carefully. When we are reading these verses, it means so much. Knowledge is not just general knowledge or material knowledge. This is something much more than that. What did it do? Receiving that knowledge took Maharaja Parikshit to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And we all know material knowledge is not going to take us there. What type of knowledge did he receive? So I will be touching upon that. Another topic which I wanted to talk today was the principles of hearing. And this is all in connection with our current, Srimad Bhagavatam class, the purpose of hearing, attention, and all those things. So the principles of hearing, in one of Srila Prabhupada, he emphasizes this in context of gopis hearing Krishna's flute sound, how they became so absorbed in thoughts of Krishna that they completely forget themselves. And there is this whole section, about 20 verses, the most beautiful description of Vrindavan, and the birds and the bees, and how the trees behaved, how the rivers behaved, how the deer behaved, how were the cows. And the gopis are thinking about the response of various living entities to Krishna's flute sound. And they are perfected devotees. And so what does that indicate? What are they doing? They're not just repeating something. They are remembering Krishna's pastimes. This is called smaranam. We all hear the word smaranam. And smaranam, Prabhupada writes in the purport towards the end of that chapter, that smaranam is, that remembrance is the perfectional stage. It is the perfection of devotional life. Now, is this applicable only to us, or is it applicable to those who are siddhas? Gopis were siddhas. Maharaja Parikshit was a siddha. Sukadeva Goswami was a siddha. So this remembrance of Krishna's pastimes with deep feelings within one's heart, it is the ultimate perfection of devotional life. So therefore, I gave this topic as perfection for sadhakas and siddhas alike. And what is the goal? That is this type of remembrance. And Prabhupada writes, this remembrance should be achieved somehow or other. Somehow or other, one has to achieve this remembrance. In Bhagavad Gita, everything is there in Bhagavad Gita also. That's why every single situation, you go back to Bhagavad Gita, the instruction Krishna has given, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto. Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto, meaning always constantly think of me and remember me. Krishna said that. But we read that verse and we don't know how to remember Krishna, because this process of remembrance, it is not just one thing. There are different components to the process of remembrance. And if you study that in Upadeshamrita and so many other places, the Prabhupada has given details in his purports. What are the different aspects of remembrance? So that is the goal of our life. So then the question comes, we are just practicing devotees. We are not advanced or anything. So we still have our attachments, we have our desires and all those things. And so are we supposed to wait until all of that has subsided? The answer is no, because these unwanted desires that arise within our heart will continue to remain there even in the presence of pure faith until we become perfected devotees. So what should we do? We should not forget to root them out. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives clear-cut instructions that there is careful and purposeful practice of devotional life. Careful and purposeful practice of devotional life and carefully rooting out the unwanted things are necessary. So this is just the overall the points which I wanted to cover. I hope I'll be able to cover everything that I wanted to within this short time. I asked Lingaraju Prabhu's permission to go a little over the time so that you will get the complete picture. As best as I can, I'll try to condense this. So in this verse, it is said, Jnana, Maharaja Parikshit, through Jnana, he attained this perfection. So what is Jnana? Jnana really means tasting the activities of the Lord. Tasting the activities of the Lord. That is Jnana, not like acquiring knowledge. So many times when we hear a class, everybody has a lot of questions, and many times the questions related to, okay, this incident took place in this yuga, what happened prior to that, or who was this devotee in their previous life or in their future life, how did this situation come about? So we hear a lot of discussion. Yes, it is question answers. That is our methodology, asking questions and getting answers. But to get to the real, the real point of devotional service, we have to understand this point, which is Maharaja Parikshit, who attained liberation through Jnana, he received by hearing attentively from Shukadeva Goswami that Jnana was not just knowledge. That Jnana is he tasted the activities of the Lord. You can see a clear-cut example of tasting the activities of the Lord in the case of gopis in the Venu Gita section. So that is a super special example. So, and then the result of that Jnana was he attained the lotus feet. Now, in 12th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that Maharaja Parikshit attained liberation. So here also it is said, Yena apavargakyam. Yena apavargakyam means Parikshit attained liberation. So apavarga, in this case, means the lotus feet of the Lord, because the king of the birds, Garuda, is taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. So Parikshit Maharaj attained that apavarga, which was the lotus feet of the Lord. That is what this verse is saying. So in 5th canto, there is a verse which explains a little bit more about this. And that verse, a part of that verse, it says, Yatha varna vidhanam apavargascha bhavatiyo sau bhagavati bhakti yoga. So here here this verse says, according to the varna, liberation by methods according to varna. Remember varna and ashrama, 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. We were discussing that in the somehow or other, every verse I got in the past couple of months had something to do with varnashrama dharma. Srila Prabhupada gives detailed description of this. By following the principles of varnashrama dharma, one can elevate all kinds of persons to the platform of pure devotional service. So Prabhupada writes in one of his purport, Krishna consciousness movement is being propagated all over the world to re-establish the Varnashrama Dharma system and thus save human society from gliding down to hellish life. So Apavarga, which is the liberation that is described here for Maharaja Parikshit, it is the attainment of the lotus feet of the Lord, and it is and he attained that through this process of hearing and assimilating and tasting the activities of the Lord. One has to taste the activities of the Lord. So I will now spend a little bit of time on the 5th canto verse, which I touched upon. 5th canto, there is this verse. It says, I'm reading the translation, that liberation whose essential nature, please pay close attention, that liberation whose essential nature is unmotivated bhakti yoga to the Lord, full of qualities, that is Bhagavan, who attracts the minds of all beings, who is not the object of merging, who is not described by material words, who remains beyond destruction of the universe, who is the most excellent Atma, who is the son of Vasudeva, takes place. How do you get to that Apavarga liberation? It happens when, by the destruction of the knot of ignorance, Vidyade Hridaya Grandhis, by the destruction of the knot of ignorance which causes various material goals when there is association with the devotees of the Lord. Shushusho Shraddhadhanasya, which begins by the association and it leads to Vidyade Hridaya Grandhis. So what is the nature of this liberation? The Lord, who is Bhagavan, who is full of 6 opulences, he is called by the name Sarva Bhuta Atmani, one who attracts the minds of all living beings. And it is stated that there is a word used is anirupte. He cannot be described by our words. God cannot be described by our words. He's beyond our description. And another word used is anilayane. His form and qualities remain as it is even at the time of universal destruction. Everything that is material, our bodies which are made of Panchabhutas, everything, it goes back into its elemental state at the time of universal destruction. It doesn't happen to the body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is known as Anilayane. He is the Paramatma. He is the super soul. And it is said he is without any material cause, Ananya Nimitta, and that Supreme Lord, that Bhagavan, his Swarupa, his original form is Apavarga, a form of Apavarga, which is liberation, that Swarupa of the Lord. So, in the conventional descriptions, Apavarga simply means liberation. For the Jnanis, it is merging. For the yogis, Paramatma. And for the devotees, it is attainment of the lotus feet of the Lord. So what is described in this 5th canto verse, there is also another verse which describes, I'll get to that after this. But this one, what it means in this context is Bhagavan, who is full of all different opulences, he's unique He's perfect. He's the soul of all the living entities. He's the super soul. He is so super special. No change happens to him at the time of destruction. And his swarupa, that form of the Lord, is the apavarga for the devotees of the Lord. And how does it happen? It takes place in the association of devotees. So now I'm not going to go into the whole detail of the other verse, which is coming again in the 5th canto, because I touched upon the fact that Prabhupada is talking about the purpose of Krishna consciousness movement, the system of Varnashrama Dharma, which leads upliftment of human society and which brings one to the state of apavarga, particularly in our path. And so in 5th canto, there is this description of Jambudvipa and the kind of living entities who takes birth in Bharatavarsha. Particularly for us, it is very important to recollect that exactly based upon our karmic situations, whatever it is our karmic background is, that is exactly the result of this current body. Each one of us, the influence of the modes that is playing out in our life, it's like exactly delivered to us according to our past situation in this material life here, in this material planet, the earthly planet. So earthly planet is such a special place. So we all have these influence of the modes, and all of that is given to us according, the nature of the body, the nature of the influence of the various modes, everything that we are exhibiting is exactly because of the past karmic situation that we carry. We are given that type of situation in our life. So how do you elevate from that state to this apavarga? And this is why it is so important to understand the 1st canto, 2nd chapter words, which we already covered. And this was regarding the dharmasya apavargasya narthorthyayo pakalpade. This verse is very famous. I'm sure most of you know this verse. So what is dharmasya apavargasya? So dharma, the word dharma, dharma, is it the same dharma for all categories of people belonging to the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, or those who are practicing impersonalism, or the yogis, or the devotees? What is their dharma? Each one has got their own type of dharma. So can dharma be used for any purpose? Yes, it is true, because in the study of dharma, we hear dharma leads to dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And then there is the panchama purushartha. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha are the 4 purusharthas which leads to the final one, which is real love for God. Now, this dharma, artha, kama, moksha, we know there is a cycle. When you execute your dharma, as a result, you receive artha, and then you go for sense gratification, and then dharma, artha, and then that satisfies your senses, and then liberation. So what type of liberation? So dharma in this particular verse, dharma, control of the mind and senses. So for control of dharma is the control of mind and senses for jnanis, those who are seekers of knowledge. And when they execute that dharma, there is a result, and that result is they want to merge into Brahmajyoti. And for the yogis, it is the practice of yama, niyama, pranayama, and all those things. And if their goal is attainment of Paramatma, that will be different result. But for a devotee, hearing, chanting, these are the ultimate purpose of execution of any dharma. So it is said, arthayana kalpade. They are not suitable as the goal for, because after examining the nature of the material gain, a devotee will come to the conclusion that this is not my goal. My goal is apavargasya. And what is that apavarga? Having that goal of apavarga for a devotee, it is not merging, it is not attainment of super soul, it is service to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So the result, that apavarga, is the result of the practice. And so for the devotee, it is prema bhakti. That is the only apavarga for a devotee. And so there is so in this practice of bhakti, the goal is that, and I'll give you a quote from Skanda Purana, just the translation. It says, O Janardhana, O Lord, O Vishnu, that bhakti which is fixed on you is called liberation. Because your devotees are certainly liberated. That bhakti which is fixed on you is liberation, because your devotees are certainly liberated. So there is nothing wrong in 12th canto. Parikshit Maharaj, it is stated that Parikshit Maharaj attained liberation. But this is the meaning of that. So attainment of material result is not that which is aspired by the devotee. And one more point which I wanted to make. This again is from the first canto, second chapter. One who desires apavarga, sense pleasure attained from enjoying sense objects, is not the goal as long as one lives. Goal of life is inquiry into the highest truth. What is accomplished by prescribed duties is not the goal. So as long as one lives, one should work for the attainment of apavarga. So understand this, karma, nishkama karma, and this way, there are people who begin with just simply engaged in karmic activities. Somehow or other, when they come across Vedic knowledge, they end up doing nishkama karma. So this nishkama karma can eventually lead to jnana and yoga. So jnana and yoga, and the result coming out of that is a byproduct of nishkama karma. But for devotees, anything that they do that accompanies this bhakti, it is not the fruit of any kind of karma, because bhakti is not a transformation of karma. Karma leading to nishkama, karma leading to jnana or yoga, that is different. But bhakti, it is a different type of process. Bhakti is like you get completely transformed by your strong attraction to hear about the glories and the activities of the Supreme Lord. And that is where this whole question about hearing and everything comes connected. So jiva swatattva jitnasa, that is what is stated in that verse. So now I will just take a couple of minutes to explain something about the process of hearing. Now, it is described that there are 4 different types of hearing. Because of lack of time, I will completely condense this. One is called incidental hearing. An example, incidental hearing means when you are hearing on hearing certain part of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a mention about Krishna's activity. And so you are not purposefully looking for it, you happen to hear it since you were attending that class. An example, I'll read a translation from first canto. This is Bhishma Dev speaking. Bhishma Dev is leaving his body and during his prayers, and he is remembering Krishna's pastime with the gopis. And he says, let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Brajadham, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from Rasa dance. Hearing of Rasa Leela. So how did you hear about Rasa Leela? We are not talking about Rasa Leela. This is Bhishma Dev. He is departing and he is talking. He remembers about Krishna, whose motions and smile, he talking about the gopis, whose motions and smiles of love, Krishna's motions and smiles, it attracted the heart of the gopis. He's remembering. But Bhishma Dev is not giving us any instructions in the context of how is this remembrance of gopis' attraction to Krishna going to help us to develop that love for Krishna. Bhishma Dev is not talking anything more about it. But we heard this topic. But then if you study Rupa Goswami's writing, he gives detailed descriptions about how this should be practiced and all those things, the qualifications of the speaker, the qualifications of those who are hearing, what you can hear, what you cannot hear, all these things Rupa Goswami gives. Now, there are Krishna's Ashtakaliya Leela and all those things. It can be practiced either by devotees who have attained their Swarupa, perfected stage, or devotees who are aspiring almost at the stage of Ruchi, under the guidance of someone who is in that path. And there are clear-cut instructions on this by Rupa Goswami. Now, Prabhupada, this is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is giving us information about both how Bhishma Dev addressed this and how Rupa Goswami gave us more details. But also, Prabhupada, when he is presenting these, he is giving us clear-cut instruction that we have to have certain qualifications. We have to put these into practice that matches with one's spiritual advancement. You put it into practice that which matches with one's spiritual advancement. So it is not like anybody pick up anything and practice, or anybody pick up a book and read and then you become perfected. That is not what Prabhupada is saying to us. So that is incidental hearing. The other one is purposeful hearing. Purposeful hearing means, let us say you heard something about a particular topic, and then that topic suddenly attracts your attention, and then you go looking for that particular topic. These days, the biggest problem is Google and all that. So people may go and Google immediately. I need to get to this information on this topic. Let me Google. I don't do that. I try to avoid that as much as possible. I would rather go back to Srimad Bhagavatam, back reference verses which are already quoted in there. That guides you in the right direction because it was written by Prabhupada. He has put in every reference in there very thoughtfully. So, but purposeful hearing means going back and finding something. But here the problem is, as I said, that if you don't have proper understanding, it will lead you to misunderstanding because depend upon where you end up with. Then the other thing is practiced hearing. Practiced hearing is very constantly, every day, hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam and trying to remember. Hearing from Bhagavatam and trying to remember. This is practice. This is what we call conscious practice. And this was done by the Goswamis of Vrindavan. They were constantly meditating upon Krishna. So, but you can see the qualities of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. What did they do? They gave up all their material activities, material possessions, everything. They gave up and they went and lived in Vrindavan just to execute this practice, which is carefully hearing about Krishna's pastimes, remembering them. They were advanced souls. We can practice, but not at their level. We can practice at our level. We can, when we are hearing, paying close attention so that by careful, thoughtful practice, we get to the point where we can recollect, not like the way Goswamis of Vrindavan, but we get into the habit of doing that, and then you will get that attraction to hear Krishna's pastimes. And then there is the specific hearing, which is very advanced, which is, remembering, hearing a certain pastime and meditating and Ashtakaliya Leela and all those things. And there are two categories of devotees who do this. One is siddhas, who have already understand their swarupa, and others who are very advanced practitioners who have reached the stage of ruchi, taste. So that is these are different type of hearing. So now, why did I bring it all together is with regard to, in context of our Srimad Bhagavatam class, because this whole issue about people are not coming to hear. That brings us to now this is the qualification of hearing, but then the qualifications of the speaker. Now we are all just average people who are just trying to speak with each other. What is our realization? And this is perfectly okay. But many times, this is not a problem only for us. Many times we will hear, sometimes in many temples, of course, somebody may have an opinion that that these older devotees who are already, they have heard so much, they have so much knowledge. So, we need to provide them something extraordinary knowledge when we speak. Otherwise, they will be feeling left out. In fact, at some stage in one of my, one time, one devotee had come and asked that, the classes are not that attractive, it doesn't make me feel like wanting to sit in the Sunday feast lecture. And I didn't say anything. And what he was expecting was to provide like some kind of a entertainment value. Some people like classes where there is some entertainment value. Some people like classes which has got more substantial, some additional knowledge which they have not heard, or one particular pastime or one particular something which they have not heard before, and then only it is pleasing to them. But that is not the kind of that is not the kind of message given to us, starting from Lord Chaitanya. There is a time and a place for everything. And there are two aspects. One is the speaker, and then there is the listener. And I'll get to the point of the quality of the listener, which is actually the key to all these things. If you are an advanced devotee who have studied all of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, you name it, everything, all the books in the Vaishnava category, and you are so knowledgeable, that person will never be bored in hearing Krishna Katha from anybody. Anyone speaking about Krishna, it is always attractive to such a person. So it is wrong for us to assume that because there are somebody who is so read and knowledgeable, we need to present something which is above and beyond their knowledge. Because it ultimately, what I began talking about was, it is not knowledge in the worldly sense that brings us closer to Krishna. It is that genuine attraction one develops in taste in hearing the pastime of Krishna. If we don't develop that taste, everything is just a mechanical process. And it has its value, but we need to make a conscious effort to move from mechanical to really what we want, where we want to go, how we want to go, this kind of a thing. But what did Lord Chaitanya do? Let us go back to Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was among the general crowd of people, he was always chanting and dancing. He did not speak about Krishna's pastime with gopis to the general public. He was simply chanting the Mahamantra. He was dancing in ecstasy that touched the heart of people, transformed their life. But in the company of his intimate associates, he talked about Krishna's pastimes. And particularly with Swarupa Damodar and Ramananda Roy, He spoke about the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So this is an example one has to understand. It is not like by speaking about some Radha Krishna pastimes, you are going to prove to others that I know better than all of you, or I'm trying to please this advanced devotee sitting over here. Actually, one of the principal things for all of us who are getting trained to be speakers is to speak in such a way that the least qualified person who do not know anything at all about Krishna in the audience, he should be able to understand what we are trying to speak. As far as the advanced devotees in the audience, that is not your problem at all, because advanced devotees of the Lord, for them, tava kathamritam, tapta jivanam. When they hear about Krishna's pastimes, they are immediately attracted. I'll conclude this with one last thing. Take an example of a mother and her baby. A baby slowly turns from the back to the tummy, and then the baby learns to crawl, and then the baby learns to get on the knee and start crawling. Every step of that is so attractive that the mother's heart is deeply attracted towards this change that is happening in their child, and the mother gets extremely happy. Now wait for this child to grow up, and he's defending his PhD thesis or something in college. The mother is equally happy to see the son has grown up and he has gone to college, he has mastered some subjects, and he's presenting it in the most expert way. He's getting his PhD. There is no difference for the mother. An advanced devotee's position is that. So an advanced devotee in the audience is not a hindrance to anybody. An advanced devotee, as soon as they hear somebody speaking, anybody speaking, what will happen is that their ears will perk up. They will always capture the nectar of Krishna's pastime from anything that anyone who is making an attempt to speak. So that does not mean that I am underestimating any other valid points that were raised, that yes, we need discussion, we need more understanding and all those things. Yes, it's perfectly okay. If we have the time, we can do question answers and enlighten one another. That is the method of our parampara and everything. However, for us as speakers and hearers, and the purposeful hearing and the purposeful practice and understanding of this whole process, this what I talked today, it gives you an overall perspective from the point of view of the speaker, from the point of view of the one who is hearing, the goal of all of this. And how do you attain that goal? Not by knowledge. Anyway, the purpose of all of this is not acquiring some knowledge because somebody is giving you so much more knowledge. It is about acquiring the taste. And when you have the taste, then everything falls in place. But of course, we will go through all these procedures, what we talked about before, like the when there are opportunities to hear from devotees who are so knowledgeable, you get your questions answered, which is all fine. We'll put that on one side of the brain, questions answered, fine. But the other side of the brain, you need to really think through. It's all this knowledge that I have gathered, is it taking me exactly closer towards Krishna? Knowledge is fine, knowledge is needed, you need ignorance to be removed, but it has to happen through this acquirement of taste. I'll stop it here. I purposefully took some extra time because it is all relevant to us, because we all speak, and some of us hear, some of us don't come here to hear, and all those things for various reasons. These days for me, most of the time, starting from 6:30 or 7 o'clock, I am on some different calls or people calling me for various things, and that's no excuse that they're not hearing the classes that is happening here. I mean, I'm hoping that, things will slowly calm down and come back to what it used to be. So anyway, kindly bear with me for taking this time today. And if anybody has any comments, questions, we can take it for in another 2-3 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Hare Krishna, Mathaji.
Yeah, Haribo.
The practiced hearing is something that I would like to understand a little bit more and go a little deeper, like what does it mean and how can we do practiced hearing?
Practiced hearing is like consciously paying attention. See, the thing is we hear through one ear and we leave it through the other ear. Right? I mean, how many of us are remembering that what we have heard? That is actually thoughtful hearing, in my opinion, practiced hearing. But that, what the Goswamis of Vrindavan practiced was quite different because they were all siddhas, right? We are not that.
Yeah.
But where can we begin from where we are? We can begin. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, everybody tells us. It has to be, Krishna consciousness should be a very careful, purposeful practice. Purposeful practice which will remove all the anarthas and it will make our faith very steady. So we can measure ourselves by if our faith is becoming steady. And how do you do that? It is by careful practice within quotation, which means when anything, let us say if you are hearing only for 30 minutes, don't just hear it and forget about it. And hear it and then think about it. It need not be Krishna's pastime you are recalling or anything like that. Hearing and thinking about it. When Lingaraj Prabhu posted that question in this speakers group, it made me think. And I was trying to recollect things which I have read in the past and trying to connect to the dots. That is purposeful. And then how it becomes purposeful is like it is Krishna shows you the relevant subject matter. Krishna points out to you about, like when I was reading the words and I was remembering what Lingaraju was asking, and then all these various things came in context. So you with reference to context, one has to learn, one has to train oneself to bring subject matters with reference to context. That requires a clarity of thinking, a clarity of purpose. So then everything will come together. So now we were not talking about gopis' pastimes with Krishna today, but we were talking about Krishna and the process. And now, we will very carefully think through, where does this process take us? It is not about the general approach where people say how to do, what to do, when to do. This kind of questions come up all the time. How am I supposed to do this? Even though this is how you are supposed to do this, it becomes part of it. It becomes your habit. It becomes your habit when you are hearing. It doesn't matter who you are hearing it from. It could be a youth group person speaking. It could be an average person speaking in the class, but they are trying their level best to speak to you something about Krishna. And if you have good attention, you will catch something there. And then you will think about it. And then you will find related references. It is not for showing off for the whole world. It's not showing off to the congregation that I am more knowledgeable. I have read more books. I have this much knowledge. I am better than you. It is not to prove anything to anybody. It is for your own the guidance for your own mind, guidance for your intelligence. That is a thoughtful devotee. And that is what is called practiced hearing. It is not like, okay, I need to now remember Krishna's childhood pastimes and I will meditate upon that. I can guarantee you at this stage, none of us will be able to do that because we are still like babies in this practice. But what I'm telling is this practice, the purposeful practice of Krishna consciousness, all of us can do. Purposeful practice. I don't know if this helped you.
Yeah, so if I can summarize, begin with purposeful hearing and then contemplate on that purposeful hearing and try to internalize it.
No, not just to contemplate on purposeful hearing. Purposeful hearing is purposeful practice. And purposeful practice is when you hear a subject matter relating to Krishna, something captures your attention, some particular aspect of that class or something. There was a topic, or so this captured my attention. Now, how do I elaborate on that? So probably the speaker must have said something from their own preparation, their own practice or whatever. Then as a hearer, you have your contribution to make, which is being thoughtful about what did I hear on this subject matter from my spiritual master or Srila Prabhupada or in a reference or whatever. How do I connect these dots? How do I bring all these other messages from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita into this message that I just received from this average ordinary devotee who is speaking? So this is our point. Our problem here is like everybody thinks, okay, an average devotee cannot speak anything so advanced that, and I have become so advanced now, I don't want to hear from any of these people. No, nobody has become any advanced. If you are an advanced devotee, you will find very, very valuable things even when a child speaks. That is what I was trying to point. So purposeful hearing is not like I don't know what you were trying to say, but it is like, first of all, pay attention to what you are hearing. Second of all, think about it. Think about it and see, you have heard something relating to this or some connection somewhere else in Bhagavatam or in Bhagavad Gita. Now, when your brain starts connecting different aspects of Krishna's pastimes or different things that you have heard from the scriptures, and when you connect to the dot, then you become very happy. This is where the real happiness comes, not proving to the whole congregation or the whole world that I'm the best speaker in this world. No, we may be nothing, but we will relish Krishna the more you internalize it, and the more you try to be with Krishna in your own time after hearing. So then what happens? More devotees will become more mature. And so even if the most immature person gives the class, you don't feel bored about it, because the more you hear, the more you realize that actually, of course, advanced devotees always feel they're lower than a blade of grass. They are nothing. They never, self-proclaim I am the best. They always remain humble. But what I'm saying is we have to develop this. This will help us to grow as a community, and this will help us also clearly to see how do you accomplish, how do you go in the right direction? Because our purpose here is not gathering knowledge, just by, just knowledge. Just knowledge is not going to help. There's an application, and this is the application.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please explain humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada.
Yeah.
You explained very nicely about the purposeful hearing. The purposeful hearing is one of the very important part of our sadhana. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Regular one should hear Bhagavat Katha. So if that is not there, then there will be a weakness in our spiritual life and path. So it is very important to hear everyday Bhagavad Gita, whatever it is, whoever I am, whoever you are, whoever you may be. So must sit and hear Bhagavad Gita regularly. That is called Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So it is a service to the our senses, especially hearing process is very important in our spiritual path. If you don't hear regular Bhagavad Gita, it is no use of, no purpose of spiritual life then.
No, here is, that is Sunnatam Sakhada Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana, those verses were Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, and all of that is there. The fourth verse which says Tatha Rajastamoba, so all the modes, influence of the modes will go away. And now that's why I brought into context one who is born in Bharatavarsha. We are all getting born with our past karmic situation. Now, you were talking more about every day they should hear, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The problem is there are various reasons why people lose interest. That's what I'm addressing. People lose interest because people want something fresh to hear every class. People want something more knowledge. So my point here today is not about everyone should hear every day, which is everyone knows already, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, we already know that. But people, when they lose their interest, then how do you address that question? How do you address that particular issue about losing interest? The losing interest, it's not like then you force yourself to sit there in a class. Then we know there is a fundamental problem. The reason you are losing interest is there is something wrong with our purposeful practice of Krishna consciousness. Purposeful practice is like even when you are by yourself, there is a job for you to do. And that job is connecting the dot. What you have heard even in one class, you try to put it together, and then your interest is within yourself. You develop that detailed, the deep attachment to wanting to know more about this subject matter, or wanting to know more about Krishna. And this happens when you are careful, even if attended one class, and you are putting that all together, and you are processing this within yourself. Not like just sit there in the class and sleep, or somehow force yourself. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya is needed, so you sit there, Nityam Bhagavata Seva, but you don't even think about it. And so even if you sit in the class, it's not going to produce any result if you don't. What is Nityam Bhagavata Seva? That is remembrance. Ultimate goal is remembrance. And we are not at that stage of remembrance. And remembrance itself has got different components. It is not just one process. That's what I was trying to explain today. Not about everybody should attend Nityam Bhagavata Seva. Of course, that is what is required of us. How do you do that the proper way? How are you able to get to that point? And that is what my point was.
Yeah, that is the real purpose, to remember the Lord regularly by sitting in the Bhagavatam class, not sleeping in the Bhagavatam class.
No,
Similarly, you can sleep in the chanting house. While you chant regularly, you can sleep in chanting house. That is not the purpose of chanting.
The point is that even if you hear and even if you chant inattentively, it is not going to produce any result. Correct. Even though it is good. Because we know if you call the name of Krishna unknowingly also, there are so many side benefits. But you will never attain the goal of all this, the love of Krishna, unless you consciously practice. You cannot just go through, like you keep the cell phone on one side, scrolling through that, and you chant your holy name. What is the use? That is total disrespect to Krishna. Or, this happens all the time. You break your chanting because, somebody, some other unimportant thing came your way. And your mind, if you don't make a conscious effort to control this purposeful practice, write it down somewhere. That's what I'm trying to say. Purposeful practice is required. It's not mechanically going through the thing. That alone will not help. It has its benefit. It alone will not help.
And one more, I just wanted to you to explain about that pavarga. You said about apavarga. Apavarga is practicing bhakti yoga and coming out from the circle of birth, old age, disease, and death, and attain love of God and attain Krishna. So that is called apavarga. You explain nicely. But what about that pavarga?
We are not deviating from today's subject right now because it's already 8:35. So we are not going to pavarga. Apavarga for devotee is developing this attainment of the lotus feet of the Lord. For Gnani, it is merging. For Yogi, it may be attainment of Paramatma. We are focused on that word, apavarga. That's what Maharaja Parikshit attained in the form of liberation. So let us stay focused on one subject matter. We are not deviating from that right now, especially this being 8:35 or 8:36. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mataji. I think very thoughtful sharings, and it's very, very helpful for me, and especially for everybody. So thank you so much.
And I wanted to thank you, Lingaraju, because I could see your question. It really made me think, and it helped me, I would say, when I was thinking about this, and when I came across so many references with regard to how Prabhupada's instruction, how to do and all that. It really helped me to get more clarity, because we hear complaints about, oh, the quality of speech is not so good, or somebody did not speak well. I lost my interest. No, actually the responsibility mostly lies on the person who is hearing, the person who is speaking, how to deliver the message, that point, which is very important also. How to deliver the message. It is not about knowledge. It is about being attentive of the needs of an average person in the audience, and not be, too much bothered about, okay, those advanced devotees are sitting here. I need to overpower them and give them some more knowledge. That is not our goal at all. Even the youngest or the newest person should benefit. And that is what you call, this is the thing with our Sunday feast classes and all those things. There are expert speakers who know how to deliver their message, even in the simplest format, so that, it reaches everyone in the audience. Anybody can speak, but anybody cannot be thoughtful. This is very, very, this process is, we have to execute this very carefully. Anyway, thank you very much for making me think, so that at least I get some clarity. And I hope somebody else got some clarity in this class. And I just wanted to take that extra time to reinforce this. Thank you so much, everybody. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.